That was just lovely. Welcome to First Parish in Bedford. There are two of me. Okay, now is there just one of me? No. All right, well, you better pay attention now, or you'll hear it twice. Oh, better? Okay. Welcome to First Parish in Bedford, a Unitarian Universalist congregation where we come together every week as a people with diverse beliefs and a shared commitment to bring more peace, more love, more justice, and more joy into the world. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you worship one God or many gods or no God, you are welcome here. I want to say a special welcome to all of our visitors this morning in person and on Zoom. We are glad you are with us here today. Here in the sanctuary, you are invited to fill out a blue connection card, which you'll find at the end of the pews. You can give that to one of the ushers during the collection, and we will add you to our mailing list. In Zoom, we will put a link in the chat to a form you can fill out as your virtual blue connection card. Parents and caregivers of little ones, there is a nursery available downstairs for your convenience, but we are always delighted to have little ones here in our sanctuary as well. After the service, everyone is welcome to join us for coffee, tea, and fellowship in the common room. We do have some announcements today. Please visit the pastoral care table after the service and community hour to sign cards for members of our community experiencing joys and sorrows. Also, next week is the Valentine's concert. Please look in your order's service for more details about this fun musical event. And lastly, the Parish Council meeting meant for last Sunday, when we had so much snow, is happening today at 4 p.m. on Zoom only. If you're involved in that, you should look for a Zoom link from B. Brunkhurst.
We light our flaming chalice this morning with these words. More than relic, living symbol, beacon to the bewildered, illuminating refuge, light of love, calling to community, signal of sacred mission, shine now in the world. Set being ablaze, kindle our courage, ignite intuition, spark our hearts to service, glow hope. And some brief opening words from the Uruguayan poet Eduardo Galeano. The world, which is the private property of a few, suffers from amnesia. It is not an innocent amnesia. The owners prefer not to remember that the world was born, yearning to be a home for everyone. Our opening hymn this morning is number 139, Wonders Still the World Shall Witness. And I'll admit this is a new one to me. The hymns were selected by Reverend Jamie before he realized he was ill and wouldn't be preaching this morning, so we can all experience this hymn together. can stay standing in body or in spirit as we join in our unison affirmation that we say together each week in English and in Spanish. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el espíritu de amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. Thank you.
Oh, so many pages. Jeez. Okay, here we go. Today's story is titled Hope is a Rope at Abbott Elementary. There's a rope hanging from the gym ceiling at Abbott Elementary School in Westford, Massachusetts. It's not a special rope. It's just like every other rope you'd find in an elementary school gym. Thick, probably scratchy, and maybe even a little frayed at the bottom. And it stretches all the way up to the ceiling beams. Every school year, when gym class rolls around, the rope hangs there, quietly, patiently, as kids glance over and say the same things, like, I hope you don't have to climb that. That's impossible. That would be way too much work. I don't have the muscles. Well, I have the muscles. I don't think you have the muscles. No one can climb that high. Why even try? Some kids don't even look at the rope. Some laugh at it. Some remember trying once they were younger, sliding back down with burning arms and shaky legs, and decide never again. And the rope just hangs there until one kid tries. Like, really tries. I imagine the kid doesn't look especially strong, like when I was their age. They don't have any fancy sneakers or superhero powers. They just stand there under the rope and look up. Not all the way to the ceiling, maybe just to the first knot. They might give it a try. And they might think, well, maybe I shouldn't try today. Maybe not today, but then the teacher nods, hey, you got this. You don't have to go all the way to the top. Just try to make it to the first knot. So the kid grabs the rope, feels the scratch of the rope, feet slip, arms shake. Someone mutters, that's not going to work. Someone else says they'll never make it. But the kid doesn't listen. They climb to the first knot, they take a breath, they rest. They climb to the second knot, they take a breath, and they rest again. It isn't fast, it isn't graceful, but it's real. And something quiet happens in the gym once a kid tries climbing the rope. Other kids stop talking. Some cheer. Some watch as the climber slips a little, then holds on. They watch as the kid struggles, then keeps going. The kid doesn't reach the ceiling that day, probably. They don't ring a bell or win a prize, but when they slide back down to the floor, smiling and probably very sweaty, something has changed. The rope isn't the same. The room isn't the same. The next week, another kid tries, then another. Some make it higher, some don't. But the whispers change. Instead of, that's impossible, kids say, well, maybe I could try. Instead of, that's too much work, you'll hear a kid say, what if we help each other? You see, hope, not rope. You see, hope is a lot like a rope. It doesn't promise an easy climb. It doesn't pull you up for free. It just hangs there waiting for someone brave enough to grab on and to make a difference. Hope doesn't mean you'll definitely reach the top. Hope means believing it's worth reaching for the next, not the next step. And sometimes when one person climbs, everyone else remembers they can too. So when someone tells you hope is unrealistic, or it's too hard, it's not the solution, not worth the effort, remember the rope and reach anyway, because even one small climb can lift a whole room. Okay, now let's sing the kids to class. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Marge Heckman, and I'm a member of the Light Pastoral Team here at First Parish. At this time in the service, we invite anyone in the sanctuary who would like to come forward and light a candle of joy or concern to do so. And then we'll check in on Zoom. And I will be at the candle stand after the service if anyone would like to light a candle in silence. Please try and keep your comments brief if you can, and tell us your name. And I will light one last candle for all those joys and concerns that we keep in our hearts. And I will be at the candle stand after the service if you'd like to light a candle in private.
There is much that we hold in our hearts. The joys of making a difference and caring for one another and showing up, and the sorrows at the lives we have lost. So let's just take a moment to sing together. We'll sing that familiar hymn, Spirit of Life. It's number 123 in your gray or cloth-bound hymnal.
This morning's reading is slightly different from what's in your order of service due to our last-minute cast change. This is from Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers. Kip cleared his throat and gave a brave smile. We destroyed our world, he said, and left it for the skies. Our numbers were few, our species had scattered. We were the last to leave. We left the ground behind. We left the oceans, we left the air. We watched these things grow small. We watched them shrink into a point of light. As we watched, we understood. We understood what we were. We understood what we had lost. what we understood what we would need to do to survive. We abandoned more than our ancestors' world. We abandoned our short sight. We abandoned our bloody ways. We made ourselves anew. He spread his hands, encompassing the gathered. We are the Exodus fleet. We are those that wandered, that wander still. We are the homesteaders that shelter our families. We are the miners and the foragers in the open. We are the ships that ferry between. We are the explorers who carry our names. We are the parents who lead the way. We are the children who continue on. He picked up his scrib from the podium. What is his name? Ammius, the man said. And what name does your home carry? Mitchell, said the woman. Ammius Mitchell, Kib spoke to the scrib. A blue square appeared on screen. He took the baby's foot and attempted to press it to the square. The baby kicked mightily, and for a moment, Kip looked intimidated by the person a fraction of his size. A quiet laugh ripped through the crowd. Kip laughed too, and with the help of the child's father, got the foot in order. The scrib chirped, record had been made. Ammius Mitchell, Kip said, born aboard the Asteria, 40 solar days of age as of GC Standard Day 211/310. He is now and always a member of our fleet. By our laws, he is assured shelter and passage here. If we have food, he will eat. If we have air, he will breathe. If we have fuel, he will fly. He is son to all grown, brother to all still growing. We will care for him, protect him, guide him. We welcome you, Ammius, to the decks of the Asteria and to the journey we take together. He spoke the final words now, and the room joined in. From the ground we stand, from our ships we live, by the stars we hope. This Sunday is the first Sunday of the month, and as many of you know, we have a tradition of sharing the plate from our weekly offering, and our we'll share the plate recipient will now introduce themselves via Zoom, assuming all is well in the technology world.
Good morning. Great. I am Sarah Baldica. I am one of the co-founders and executive director at Rise Above Foundation. It's really an honor to be with all of you this morning. Thank you for letting me be on Zoom. And I'm pleased to share a little bit more about Rise Above. We are a nonprofit organization that works here in Massachusetts with kids in our state's foster care system. And our mission is to make sure that they have access to the same extracurricular activities as their peers, to make sure that they can play a sport, to try a musical instrument, or to go to summer camp. We believe, and the research shows, that these extracurricular activities aren't extras. They're moments that create joy, belonging, and hope. Children in foster care through no fault of their own. They've faced abuse or neglect, and on top of that trauma, they're adjusting to new home, new caregivers, new schools, sometimes many times over. The outcomes are tough. 25% of youth that spend time in foster care will experience homelessness within 4 years of leaving foster care. Only 3% graduate from college. And youth in foster care are twice as likely as U.S. war veterans to experience PTSD. But extracurriculars can help counteract these outcomes. They can boost kids' academic success. They can help kids make friends, can build their confidence, they can support their mental and physical health, and they help kids feel like they belong. But the problem is that the state doesn't provide funding for these activities, and foster parents only get about $1,000 a month to cover all the needs of the child in their care. So by the time food and clothing and housing are paid for, there's not too much left for soccer cleats, for gymnastics tuition, for drum lessons, for camp. That's the gap that Rise Above fills. We turn financial barriers into opportunities for belonging, for confidence, and hope. Our approach is simple and quick. Social workers, foster parents, or other caring adults apply online for an activity a child wants to do. We review requests immediately and approve them on a rolling basis. And then we pay the activity provider directly, so we make a check out to the soccer league or the camp. We cover the bill and families never have to front the cost. The activities that we fund are as diverse as the kids that we serve. Gymnastics, horseback riding lessons, prom dress, a college service trip, concert tickets, a laptop for school, boxing classes, or items for their first dorm room or apartment. If it's something that their peers get to do, Rise Above works to make it possible for them. Since Rise Above started in 2009, we've served more than 18,000 youth across Massachusetts. Last year alone, we reached nearly 3,000 youth, which is a 45% increase over the last 2 years. So while our impact has grown, the demand is growing even faster. With the rising cost of food, extracurricular activities, and everyday necessities, it's become increasingly challenging for foster parents to afford the expenses of raising kids. While everyday costs have continuously increased, payments to foster parents have not. Many are left without adequate support, and we're receiving more requests than ever. Let me wrap up by sharing a note we received from a foster parent, how something seemingly small can have a big impact on the life of a kid. Rise Above paid for karate lessons for their foster daughter, Raven, who was 16 at the time, and they wrote to us. Raven has never had the opportunity to participate in any sports or after-school activities due to financial constraints. Being placed in a foster home in a new city has taken an emotional toll on her. Until signing up for karate, she slept a good portion of the day, and in her own mind had nothing to look forward to. Now, immediately after the first lesson, she's dedicated to getting in shape and practicing karate at home to be prepared for the next class. Rise Above paid for karate lessons, but more importantly, gave a kid that was used to disappointment something to finally be excited about. Thank you so much again for having me this morning and for helping us as a community send the message to youth in foster care that you matter and we believe in you.
Thank you so much to our speaker for joining us via Zoom and sharing those meaningful stories. And thank you to all of you for your generosity to this community and to our Share the Plate with this organization, Rise Above, this month. You can donate, of course, checks and cash in the physical offering, and there's also a small donate QR code in your order of service under the Unison affirmation, as well as a link on Zoom for those participating virtually. Our offering will now be gratefully received. So I'm curious, are there any other Becky Chambers fans in the congregation? Oh, I see one. Oh, I see a couple, a few. Nice, nice. What about Murderbot? Has anybody read the Murderbot? Oh, I see some enthusiasm. Or seen the Murderbot? Yeah, on Apple TV. Okay. What about science fiction in general? Any science fiction? A lot of hands. We like science fiction, some of us. If you're like, no, I do not like science fiction, don't worry. This is not a science fiction sermon. I will also talk about Abraham Lincoln and an 18th century Universalist theologian. But we're going to start with science fiction. Yay. Oh, good. That scene that Jen read for us is from one of Becky Chambers' books in the Wayfarers series. It's a series of connected but not serial novels that tell different stories that take place in the galactic commons. It's far in the future. Humans have had to leave planet Earth, but they have been accepted as one of the species that counts as people among the galactic commons, along with many other different species. And this universe is far from perfect. There is exploitation and greed and violence, and that is explored in many of the novels. But Record of a Spaceborne Few is about the Exodus fleet, which is the fleet of humans who left Earth the last. They stayed as long as they could, and they built sustainable ships and lived communally on their sustainable ships, and they continue to live on their ships, even though many have migrated to other planets and other colonies on different planets. But some of them continue to live on the Exodus fleet, maintaining their traditions that they developed as they had to leave Earth together. And in that book, someone comes to visit because he wants to find out if they're really so welcoming, as people say, on the Exodus fleet. Do they really offer free shelter for anyone who needs it? Do they really feed everybody there? And I won't ruin the plot by explaining what happens, but I will say that there's something so soothing for me when I read about someone coming from a context of exploitation and mistrust into a context, a whole society where people are genuinely caring for one another. Which isn't to say they're all perfect, because people have drama and conflicts and lie, but that is to say, in general, people's needs are met, and violent crime is extremely rare. Well, for those of you familiar with Murderbot, you might also be thinking about preservation and the way that other people coming into the preservation system, such as our good pal Murderbot, who is a construct, part bot, part human, designed for security, which is to say designed as basically a human machine weapon. And in the preservation system, unlike on the corporation rim, even constructs are treated as people and not things. And this is a big theme in the Murderbot series, this main character who has been experienced its whole life as a tool, being treated like a person, and how disarming that is. It feels really wonderful for me sometimes, in the midst of all that is our current planet Earth, to imagine what could be. I find myself daydreaming about it sometimes. What would it look like to have education that was really about critical thinking and emotional intelligence and practical skills? What would participatory democracy look like at scale? I like to think about these things not just because they're soothing, but because they give a kind of hope in the midst of a place where it's easy to fall into despair. And I like seeing what other people have imagined because it gives me new ideas. Now, I don't have a master plan for our world or our country. I don't know how we get from here to the Exodus fleet, or even better, from here to some more sustainable, loving way of living right here on Earth, which would be my hope for the future of humanity. And sometimes people like to point that out when I or others talk about the world that we long for, the world we want to be living in. They point out, well, how are we going to do that, and how would we get there? And I don't see how that is possible. I don't see how that is realistic. Not knowing how to get from where we are to where we need to be, not having a plan, can sometimes be a barrier. And this is where we get to Abraham Lincoln. This is a bit of a long excerpt from a very old-fashioned speech, but I think it's very interesting and actually quite relevant. This is an excerpt from a speech that Lincoln gave in Peoria, Illinois, which is very near where I grew up. It's where my mom is from, on October 16th, 1854. And it was a very long speech, man. Politicians went on and on back then. But this is just a shorter excerpt. When Southern people tell us they are no more responsible for the origin of slavery than we, I acknowledge the fact. When it is said that the institution exists and that it is very difficult to get rid of it in any satisfactory way, I can understand and appreciate the saying. I surely will not blame them for not doing what I should not know how to do as to the existing institution. My first impulse would be to free all the slaves and send them to Liberia, to their own native land. But a moment's reflection would convince me that whatever of high hope, as I think there may be in this, in the long run, its sudden execution is impossible. What then? Free them all and keep them among us as underlings? Is it quite certain that this betters their condition? What next? Free them and make them politically and socially our equals? My own feelings will not admit of this, and if mine would, we well know that those of the great mass of white people will not. Whether this feeling accords with justice and sound judgment is not the sole question, if indeed it is any part of it. A universal feeling, whether well or ill-founded, cannot be safely disregarded. We cannot, then, make them equals. It does seem to me that systems of gradual emancipation might be adopted, but for their tardiness in this I will not undertake to judge our brethren of the South. When they remind us of their constitutional rights, I acknowledge them, not grudgingly, but fully and fairly, and I would give them any legislation for the reclaiming of their fugitives, which should not, in its stringency, be more likely to carry a free man into slavery than our ordinary criminal laws are to hang an innocent one. In other words, well, sure, slavery is wrong, but that's not even really the point. I mean, what are we supposed to do? Send them all back to Africa seems impractical. Keep them here as people with fewer rights who face oppression? Is that really better? I imagine that if he'd asked any enslaved people, they probably would have said yes. Could we make enslaved people our political and social equals? He says no, I can't get behind it, and even if I could, other people couldn't. And then he speaks of constitutional rights and of Southern states' rights to come and capture their fugitives. And he notes that this shouldn't be more likely to put a free man into slavery than the regular criminal justice system would be to hang an innocent man. Well, I imagine that both did both. I imagine that they did hang innocent men, most likely poor ones or immigrant ones or such, and I imagine that they certainly captured free black people who were brought into slavery. I guess that was a price that he was willing to pay. And it reminds me a little bit, or maybe a lot, of some things I hear nowadays, that, it's okay to have legislation that allows people to capture people of color and send them to another country. That's okay, as long as, it's good, stringent legislation. We probably won't send too many innocent people away, right? We need the good, lawful slave catchers, the ones who have a due process. And what I want to say to Abraham Lincoln of 1854, and to certain politicians nowadays, and to really anyone who says, well, sure, that might be the moral thing to do, but it's just not realistic. I want to say, Well, not with that attitude. Because in 1863, 9 years later, as we know, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, ending national legal protection for the institution of race-based chattel slavery in the United States. And we look back and we think, of course, and we look back and we think that was the right thing to do. It was completely unthinkable. It was wildly impossible until it wasn't. What makes something possible? Realistic. Well, Joseph Overton, the political scientist who created the theory we now call the Overton window, might have some thoughts about it. The Overton window is about what is acceptable in a society at a given time. It posits that there's sort of extremes on both sides, and that the Overton window shifts with the population. So an idea like abolishing slavery might at one point be on the very edge of the Overton window, maybe even outside of it, but if the window shifts, then suddenly that idea is well inside the window. There are 6 levels at which an idea can be in the Overton window theory. There's unthinkable, there's radical, there's acceptable, there's sensible, there's popular, and there's policy. And you can probably think about other historical events, maybe even things that you lived through in your lifetime that you've seen move through these stages. It was once unthinkable for many of the things we take for granted now. Women voting and having credit cards, gay people getting married, just to name a couple. In a 2018 Politico magazine article about Trump and the Overton window, this says, in 2006, the Mackinac Center's Nathan J. Russell described the relationship between voters and politicians. Politicians are constrained by ideas, even if they have no interest in them personally. What they can accomplish is framed by the set of ideas held by their constituents, the way people think. Politicians have the flexibility to make up their own minds, but negative consequences await the elected office holder who strays too far. In other words, it is we who shift the window, it is not the politicians who move it. And it is we, the people, that now maybe need to shift a window that has come to contain much overt racism and sexism and ableism, blatant disregard of facts and laws, and much more that we find appalling. And it might seem appealing to try to shift the window back by moving towards a reasonable center, but I do not believe this actually helps. It is by shifting the center further to the left that we might move the whole window away from the right. So it was abolitionists who made it possible for Lincoln to sign the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, his reasons were complex. I'm no historian, but I know that his motivation was primarily military and not primarily moral. He needed to free the slaves in order to win the Civil War, more or less. But it is also true that popular opinion and moral conviction played a role. Without those, he would not have been able to do that move. It was the abolitionists that shifted the Overton window, that created the conditions. And what are the repercussions? The truth is, Lincoln was not wrong that a universal feeling, whether well or ill-founded, cannot be safely disregarded. Is the fascism we are experiencing today a direct result of Lincoln freeing the slaves too soon? Is this the inevitable boiling over of white supremacy that was given less and less legal cover in this country until they couldn't take it anymore? I cannot answer these questions. I do not know if a more gradual emancipation or a more gradual civil rights movement or a more gentle Black Lives Matter movement would have allowed for us to slowly continue marching forward toward racial justice today, instead of fighting for our lives against a regime that will even murder white citizens to protect its white supremacy. Just as James Reeb and Viola Liuzzo, our Unitarian martyrs, were murdered in Selma. Just as Elijah P. Lovejoy, a white abolitionist Presbyterian minister who lived in Missouri and then moved over the river to the free state of Illinois, was killed. He died defending his printing press, where he printed abolitionist pamphlets. He was shot by a pro-slavery mob in 1837. White supremacy in this country has always shown that it will murder white people, too, if they are deemed traitors to the race. So then, what are we to do? Should we seek to be reasonable? Should we try to move slowly like the Lincoln of 1854? Or should we seek risky liberation like the Lincoln of 1863? For this, I turn to our Universalist forebears. After all, they were the ones who had the radical idea that God loved people so much that God would not damn anyone eternally to hell. And in fact, our Universalist forebears, some of them were ultra-Universalists, who didn't even think you'd have to go to hell first to burn off your sins and then go to heaven. They thought that you would just not go to hell at all. Hell didn't even exist. And this wild idea was scandalous. How would people behave themselves without the threat of punishment in the afterlife? Without hell, everything would unravel. We couldn't possibly trust people to be loving and good out of the desire to be loving and good. Except some did. And one of those that did was John Murray, who was vital to the founding of American Universalism, and also the protagonist of one of our only UU miracle stories. But that's another story for another sermon. I know. I did tell the coming-of-age youth last week, so if you have a coming-of-age youth, you can see if they remember the story. Today, though, I want to talk to you about a quote, which is attributed to John Murray, like so many quotes are misattributed. Every time I go to make a small group ministry guide, I find another quote that is misattributed. But this one is often attributed to John Murray. It's "Give them not hell, but hope." Except he didn't actually say that, as far as we know. Where we got that from was a guy named Alfred S. Cole, who was writing a little booklet for the Council of Liberal Churches in 1951. And he was imagining a conversation that John Murray was having with what he called a time spirit. I don't know exactly what a time spirit was, but at any rate, the time spirit said to John Murray, "Go out into the highways and byways of America, your new country," because John Murray had sailed over from England. "You may possess only a small light, but uncover it. Let it shine. Use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and minds of men and women. Give them not hell, but hope and courage. Do not push them deeper into their theological despair, but preach the kindness and everlasting love of God." And so while it's unlikely that a time spirit said that to John Murray, it does seem like that was what John Murray did. He did go out into the highways and byways, and he did try to give them not hell, but hope. I know there are reasons to be afraid. And fear-mongering can be a very successful tactic. We've seen that, whether it's done religiously or politically. And it is possible that if we do the right thing, if we push for the world that should be, there will be grave repercussions that we didn't anticipate. But I want to choose not hell, but hope. I do not want to engage in fear-based politics or restrict ourselves to what seems possible out of the fear of things getting worse. Rather, I think we should embrace hope and courage. I think we should be talking about and seeking and working toward the world we really want to be living in. Whatever that looks like for you. Have you spent time daydreaming about your utopia? What is going on there? Is there universal health care? Do we still use fossil fuels? What role does gender play? How is race and culture addressed? What about migration, housing, work, support for parents and children, accessibility, support for those with illness, whether chronic or physical or mental? What about the animals? I know the youth would want to know. What about the animals? We can dream it, and we can do our best to live into it, inch toward it, in daily choices, in how we speak, in what social movements we join, and what demands we fight for. Let's not be afraid to talk about our visions lovingly and boldly. Let's not back down or make our dreams smaller because we are living in a time of great fear and repression. Many impossible things have been accomplished and can be accomplished still. It is only impossible if we believe it is so. Our closing hymn is We'll Build a Land. It's not up there because I forgot to do the slides, but it's a number, 121. It's number 121 in your gray or cloth-bound hymnal. Our closing words come from beloved poet Shel Silverstein. Listen to the mustn'ts, child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be. We'll extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.